You know, when an entire economy collapses, it doesn't feel like some dusty old event you read about in a textbook. No, it feels personal. It feels immediate. And honestly, it's terrifying. And for millions of people during the Great Depression, that was their reality. I mean, imagine factories that were the heartbeat of a town just go silent. Banks, the one place you thought your money was safe, they just lock their doors. Families who did everything right, who played by all the rules, they woke up one morning and their life savings were just gone. It was a time of absolute chaos and utter desperation.
Okay, so let's get into this, because this is where our story really kicks off. While the whole country is spiraling, one of the most powerful men in the government saw all this devastation and didn't see a catastrophe. He saw something necessary. He was just calm, analytical, and totally unmoved by it all.
That man was the Secretary of the Treasury, and his point of view was about to shape the lives of millions. Now, it's really important to get this straight. This is not a story about some cartoon villain, twisting his mustache. It's not about a criminal mastermind. It's about a totally different and maybe more unsettling kind of power. Mellon's influence wasn't about threats or brute force. It was quiet. It worked through the legal systems that were already in place, and it was backed by this unshakable, absolute confidence that he was right. It's the kind of power that doesn't have to raise its voice. So you have to ask, where does that kind of ironclad belief even come from? Well, to really understand why he did what he did during the Depression, we've got to go all the way back to his childhood. It's basically the blueprint for his entire worldview. Andrew Mellon was born in 1855, right in the heart of industrial America. His dad, a successful banker and a judge, taught him that wealth wasn't about luck. Nope, it was proof that you were smarter, more disciplined. His childhood was all about order, predictability. He never once knew what it was like to be hungry or to worry about instability. And that kind of upbringing drilled a few key ideas into him. First up, emotion. Emotion was a problem, something that just clouds your judgment. And if emotion is bad, then sympathy. Well, sympathy was seen as a dangerous weakness. It's a liability that could put the whole system at risk. And here's the real kicker, the ultimate lesson. Stability was everything. It was the highest moral good. To Mellon, if the system was stable, it was fair. So if any single person failed, that was a flaw in the person, never, ever a flaw in the system. So with that exact mindset, Mellon eventually becomes the nation's top financial guy. But here's the thing, his power was already massive, long before he ever showed up in Washington. And this is what's so fascinating. His power wasn't flashy, it was structural. His money, his investments, they were like these quiet threads running through almost every major part of the American economy, from the steel in the skyscrapers to the oil in the cars. He didn't have to be famous. He was already controlling the machine from the inside. Then, in 1921, he becomes Secretary of the Treasury. And he stays in that job for 11 years, serving under 3 different presidents. Think about that. Presidents came and went, but Mellon's philosophy, that stayed put. So what was that philosophy? Well, he saw the market as this kind of living thing that naturally fixes itself. Recessions, to him, weren't disasters. They were just painful but necessary purchase. They cleansed the system of all the weak and inefficient parts so it could come back even stronger. The logic was just cold and simple. If a business failed, it was inefficient. If a bank collapsed, it was badly run and deserved to. If workers were suffering, well, that was just an unfortunate side effect of a necessary rebalancing. And the government's job in all this was to do nothing. Just stay out of the way, because helping would only make the pain last longer and weaken the whole system. And then, in 1929, this philosophy faced the ultimate test. The stock market crashes, the Great Depression kicks off, and the entire country is looking to him for an answer. As people's life savings just evaporated and unemployment went through the roof, Mellon didn't budge. He fought against any large-scale government relief. He said no to emergency aid. He argued that trying to prop up failing businesses was the absolute worst thing you could do. His advice was just shocking. Just let that sink in for a second. Liquidate everything. He didn't say it with a hint of cruelty or anger. He said it with the cold, rational certainty of an engineer looking at a broken machine. The system had to be purged. It had to hit rock bottom before it could ever really get better. And right here, this is the devastating disconnect.
For Mellon, this was all just an adjustment happening on paper, on balance sheets and market charts. But out there, in the real world, parents were literally skipping meals so their kids could eat. Families were losing homes that their grandparents had built. The work and savings of an entire generation just vanished.
Well, eventually, the human cost just became too much to ignore. Public outrage boiled over, and it forced a change. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal came in with a completely different vision, one where the government was there to protect people, not just abstract systems. And Mellon? He was out.
So how do we remember him today? Well, publicly, he's the great philanthropist, right? The guy who founded the National Gallery of Art. But his story is also this huge warning. It's a warning about what happens when you prioritize abstract order over actual human beings, and about a kind of power that truly believes it's being rational, even as it's causing unbelievable suffering. And this really gets to the core of it all. A system, it's just an idea. A policy is just words on paper. They don't feel hunger. They don't feel the consequences of their own cold logic. People do. And that brings us to this central idea: quiet violence. This isn't about guns or fists. It's the harm that's done by a rigid, unbending belief that the health of the system matters more than the well-being of the people living inside of it. It's a kind of violence that doesn't need to yell to be absolutely devastating. And that leaves us with this final, kind of unsettling question. Andrew Mellon, the man, is long gone, but his philosophy, it's very much alive. You hear echoes of it in debates today, where market efficiency is used to justify job losses. You see it in the cold logic of algorithms that make huge decisions about our lives, like who gets a loan, who even gets a job interview, based on data points, not human context. This belief that the abstract system is more important than real human experience, it didn't just disappear. It just learned to speak a new language. So the real question for us is, where do we see it now?